So I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is on February 18th, 2026. The time is 6 p.m. and we are located at the Fairfield Center School. Is that where you guys are?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I just realized I said we and I'm not. So I'm going to review the agenda. Are there any revisions required for this agenda? I am aware of none, so agenda is accepted without objection. Next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand, please join me for a pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'm thinking there's two flags in the room.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Are there any visitors in the room that wish to address the board?
No visitors.
Nothing? No one?
Oh, no.
Okay. Are there any visitors online that wish to address the board?
No one has said that they want to.
Okay, so we'll zip right by the visitor section and go on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda has some minutes, media packet, staff changes, a donation, and the board annual work plan. Is there any changes that need to be made? Hearing none, the consent agenda is accepted without objection. Okay. The next item is reports to the board. The first report that we're going to hear is a student board representative report.
Awesome. Thanks, Nilda. It's awesome to be here. The Student Voice Committee has been in full swing working on recruitment. We have received over 40 nominations, including 5 self-nominations, which is super exciting for folks who we're going to interview. We have students to self-nominate and staff to nominate. Freshman students have until Friday to submit their nominations, and then we will come back from break and we will develop a list of who is working with which student and who's going to be interviewing those students. And making sure that they're getting the proper communication and feeling welcome in their interview process for the group. We are only taking 4 students, so it does feel like there's a lot of people that we're going to be interviewing, and we're super excited to be able to provide that opportunity to everybody. We also submitted a workshop proposal to Up for Learning's annual Power 2 conference, and we're really excited that it was accepted. I was the one reviewing the proposal, so I obviously was not going to reject our proposal. But nonetheless, it was super exciting, and we are going to be presenting about our work with the school board, and it'll be kind of like a workshop flow, and that organization that's going to go ahead of us in that flow is an organization of student school board members from around Vermont. We're going to be focusing on policy, and then we're going to be focusing on what it looks like in action. So we're super excited about that proposal. And then the other thing that we've really been working on is finalizing our plan for our listening sessions with the tagline you talk, we listen, because we realized that some folks thought that they would just be listening to us give a spiel, and that is not the goal, and that doesn't sound like anything that's super exciting. So we added that tagline in there to clarify, and the first topic that we're doing is for the goal support services for students and families, and that is going to happen on 3/11, and then 18 is when the support services group is going to present at the board, and we're hoping to provide some both qualitative and quantitative data to supplement that report from the student perspective at BFA, which we are super excited about.
Thanks. Do you have any questions? Anyone on the board have questions for Jacoby?
I just had a comment for Jacoby for Student Voice. I don't know if it's 4.5 years or 5 years or 4 years since students came forward to the board and said we want to start this and start having student voice into the running of BFA and then into the district. I think it's actually 5 but 4 years as board members. I remember that first year with trying to get students to join it. It was kind of like pulling teeth. So I think it's a real accomplishment that in 4 years, the freshmen, just for freshman class, we're not talking the whole school, just the freshman class, there's 40 kids that either nominate or self-nominate. So I think that shows to the work that the group's been doing. So thank you.
Yeah, and like to think about like when I was selected as a freshman, there were like 5 or 6 slots, and it was just kind of 5 or 6 people were there. And then my sophomore year, we were like, we got to change this. We got 11 people nominated. We ended up interviewing like 6, and there were 5 slots. So it also felt like we didn't really get a really diverse group. And then last year, we really like spoke to the staff. We really emphasized like this nomination process. We blasted it out multiple times, and we got like 30 or something recommendations. And then this year we're adding on to it by doing the self-nomination, which we didn't have before. So that way it kind of allows people to nominate themselves if like just in case a staff member doesn't see them or just those kinds of things. So we're really proud of like the work that Marie and I have really been able to change, like from when we were brought in to now. Is like a really big difference. And it's really awesome to have everybody who is on SVC to really be bought into that work and really enjoy like the interviewing and enjoying providing that equitable process for everybody.
Thanks, Jacoby. In the spirit of continuous quality improvement, I'm going to add a little step to the reporting process tonight. It probably is going to start off a little wonky, but it'll smooth out. So what I'd like to do is to make sure we go on record as accepting reports, because right now the minutes really just say that somebody gave a report. So I believe the process should be that we accept the report and then we approve the report. So if you follow that sort of line of thinking, we'll be recording it in our minutes twice. So we don't necessarily have to approve a report, but in order for the process to work, we need to accept the report. So that's our first step to quality improvement tonight. So I'm going to move on. So we have the winter student data report. But before we get there, Megan, Alexis, and Jason are going to give that, I believe. Before we get there, I want you to look at your agenda and see that you have 3 questions. And those questions are, again, are in the spirit of process improvement. And they go like, what change do you see in the monitoring report? What is the evidence that supports your conclusions? And be specific. We're going to talk about this after we hear the report. And then what more information is identified in the strategic plan? That is identified in the strategic plan. Do you need more data on to help you understand if the school system has met the district goal? And thirdly, what can the board do to help the district meet the goal within the board's governance role? So it's sort of a quality check on ourselves. And because we use the monitoring reports to determine our status against our district goals. And we use some reports to determine our status against the school board goals. So in order to play the game, we have to first request. I'm going to request that, see, this is where it gets wonky, that we accept. Does that make sense? That we accept the winter student data report. I'm going to go on record as accepting the report for now. I'm going to smooth this out a little better. I'll be better next time. But I am now going to turn this over to Megan, Alexis, and Jason, unless Bill has any intro to give us prior to that.
Nope, it's right on to them.
Okay, so
Come just a little bit closer. All right, well, good evening, everybody. We just concluded at the beginning of February our winter data period. So 3 times a year we use consistent assessments to take a look at how we're progressing and growing, and how our students are progressing and growing towards our goals around academics, behavior at SEL, and attendance. And so that's what we're going to be presenting tonight with some anecdotes. The first couple of slides are kind of boilerplate, things that you've seen before. Just a reminder that this year there's a new math assessment, and we had a new SEL competency guide pilot and curriculum pilot. And the data that we're going to be looking at tonight is attendance, social emotional learning, behavior, literacy, and math. So this is our way of reporting to you about our progress towards our OKRs. And our 3 major objectives for this year are building a supportive school culture of high expectations for behavior, engagement, and academics, ensuring consistent and aligned operational integrity and efficiency, and building a guaranteed and viable curriculum for all content areas. There are some more details about those action steps and those things that we are working on across all of our schools here, including things along the lines of improving MTSS processes and starting to collect some data around the High Reliability Schools Framework Level 1, which you heard about last time. And we've expanded our curriculum committees and have been really working on the idea of something called a guaranteed and viable curriculum across all of the areas, including SEL. And then those are the other key results there. So as a reminder, there are some data metrics that we are chasing as we are reporting out. And these are the things that we are looking to achieve as a district. And we're going to, again, be reporting out on today attendance, behavior, literacy, and math. And we'll also have some other anecdotes from school and around social emotional learning and some highlights from Spring Academy. So diving right in. So, Alexis, do you want to start off with the first 2?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. So I did the data pull for attendance and behavior specifically. And as you can see up there, you can see the shifts from the fall of this year to winter. So there was a decline in attendance from 67% to 59%. We'll get into that a little bit deeper in terms of some more qualitative data that might explain that change. We also, historically, it's important to point out we always see a dip in the winter. So whenever we look from fall to winter, we have always seen a decline and a dip in attendance, and then typically it bounces back up in the spring. In terms of the statistically significant differences with attendance in particular, you can see that our BIPOC student population are free and reduced lunch, our students on 504 plans, our students in special education, so on IEPs, and our English language learners. It is a statistically significant difference that we can predict they will underperform students not in any of those categories. I also wanted to point out when I was looking at the data, I saw that with our Black or African American students, there is a particular statistically significant difference within the BIPOC population. So I just wanted to highlight and note that as well. When you move on to behavior, again, you can see the shift from 95% to 92%. That is also following our trajectory of a little dip and a little decline in the winter. And in terms of the statistically significant differences in behavior, free and reduced lunch, students on an IEP, that should be an EST, my apologies for the typo. ELL should not be in there. So free and reduced lunch, IEP, and ESTs, it is highly probable that those populations will also underperform in the area of behavior as well. However, there was a positive difference with our English language learners and our students who identify as female, that they, it's safe to predict that they will overperform our larger population of students within the realm of behavior. So that's just an interesting difference to note. And again, for both attendance and behavior, I did a deeper dive in some future slides around some qualitative notes that may or may not help explain that shift and that change in the data for you all.
Great, thanks. So for literacy, we break out K through 5 and 6 through 12 based off of the assessments that we give. So K through 5 is the DIBELS or M-class assessment. And we saw some growth from fall to winter. And I learned how to do this growth calculation. I had a little tutoring session with Mr. Muldoon. And it's a little bit higher than it was last year. Oh, I think we were about 1.04 last year, and we're at 1.08. That basically means that we have students who are attaining the adequate growth that we would expect by the middle of the school year and some more. Which is why we see an increase in that percentage, because our assessments are progressive, so they get a little bit harder. They expect more out of the students the farther into the grade level that we get, and so the fact that we are not only maintaining but growing shows that students are really growing in an accelerated way. In 6 through 12, we are at 38%, which is a slight dip from the fall. Again, very similar growth for this time of the school year. Last year it was about 0.4 and we're at 0.38. We do have some statistical significance findings with regards to schools and some of our categories. One of the things that I would say, though, across literacy and math that is of note is that our students of color, there's no statistical significance with regards to their performance in either literacy or math, and they were identified in math in the beginning of the school year as a group that would underperform their peers, and that students identifying as female was also in math and is now no longer one of the categories there. For mathematics, we see that there's about 30% of our students are at or above the benchmark in K through 8 and 50% in 9 through 12. So a slight decline in K through 8 and a slight increase in 9 through 12. And the reason that there's no growth metric there is, and I'll show you that in a little bit, is the way that STAR assesses growth is slightly different than just to scale score growth, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So I'm still working on figuring out how I can calculate that for you in some sort of parentheses numeral, but we'll still be talking about some student growth.
I have a question. For our ELL students, are we testing them in English or in their native language that they're coming in?
So for these assessments, it's in English.
Okay.
And could you just give a quick refresher on the growth metric and what that means?
Oh, I'm going to talk about that in some further slides.
Awesome, thank you.
This is just like high level, and then we'll dive a little deeper.
Jacoby.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. So is the attendance like 70% on track? Is that, so the 67%, is that just for the fall, and then 59 is like just for the winter, or is it like cumulative? So like by the end of the winter, 59 people had 9 or fewer absence. 59% of people had 9 or fewer, or was it in the fall 67%, and then for that block in the winter, 41% of people missed 9 days in the winter? if that makes
That
Yeah,
is a
that's-
great question.
That is something we battle with as a leadership team, so I'm actually gonna have Jason answer that. He's much more articulate than I am.
So the way that Panorama does it is it does some, where we store the data, it does some behind the scenes calculations. So for example, the 67% in the fall would mean that if you keep on the pace of your current attendance rate, 67% of the students will reach,
so it's like 3 absences a trimester.
if you were to say that. And then that's why we see a dip in the winter and then it rebounds in the spring, because you could have perfect attendance through the fall. December hits and you miss 5 days because you have one cold as a student. All of a sudden you are no longer on track because mathematically there's still 76 days left of school. And so mathematically it's saying only 59% of the people keeping up that pace will meet the attendance benchmark. But that's why there's often a bump back in the spring, because if I don't miss any more days, all of a sudden I shift. And so if we were to pull this attendance report in April, you'd probably see another bump, and then pull it again at the end of the year, you might see another bump.
Is that the same with behavior?
That's what I was just gonna, give me a minute.
It's a really good question, because
Yeah,
we
it's
do
a
battle
very,
with
yeah.
this
Yeah.
understanding
Yeah.
of that,
Yeah.
because I could have a student who has one major referral in September, and up until January, it will say they are not on track for behavior. Because mathematically, there's enough time for them to get 3 more. And so that number is kind of fluid based on how much time has elapsed.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So it's based on like what you could do based on the
Projections.
pacing, not like the actual numbers that you have right now.
So to use that, Jacoby, to use a math term,
Yeah.
it's the rate of your attendance.
Yeah.
It's the rate of your behavior. And that's the only way we can take multiple dipsticks throughout the year to be able to see if we're on track. Otherwise, if you just had a pure cutoff number, you could either have terrible attendance in the beginning of the year, and it looks like you're not there.
Right.
Great question.
Yeah.
Appreciate you asking it.
So in that vein, when you look at the next slide, the one that says academics on top, I like this because I like looking at trend information. So for me, you know, not that the explanation isn't worthwhile to hear, because it is, but it shows you that we're still making gains, right? And we're holding the gains that we've made when you look at it from a trend perspective. How does what you were just talking about, the rate, how does that correlate when you're looking at trend information in terms of, like, if you were to look at the attendance, because you know how you said that sometimes it's lower, higher in the fall, and then it dips again in the winter, and then it comes back again in the spring. So if you look at all of the falls or all of the winters and all of the springs, is it still
It's in there.
good information?
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Just accurate.
Alexis.
It's in there. If you
Alexis is
just,
gonna
if you
explain.
just hold, we'll get to that. There's
She
a
can
slide.
I
up
was
there.
just trying to understand,
The
does,
rate.
does the information hold?
Yeah, I think so, but I'll let Alexis. Yeah.
I think if we could just maybe go through the next couple of slides, it might answer what you're asking, and if it doesn't, we can definitely pause and revisit it.
So digging into academics a little bit more, I don't have the overall rate for MRUSD literacy from winter 2024 and 25, but one of the things that I've been doing is starting to calculate as a whole, where are we with literacy, as well as then breaking it out, K5 through 612. So as the years go on, you'll see that there won't be dashes in the top anymore. But yes, as Joanna just said, you can see from winter 2024, 25, and 26, we are seeing gains in our overall proficiency in K through 5, or at least holding. And so this is one of those things where right now leadership teams are looking at their data from this year and thinking about what are those things that we're going to continue to press the gas pedal on for this year, and then what are the things that we can do to start to shift the needle so that we can start to see maybe in winter 2027 that we want that to be at 45% or higher than that. What are those instructional shifts that we're going to make? What are those things we're going to continue to dig into so that we can continue to see this change over time? So it's really exciting to see not only are we holding proficiency, but we are growing in proficiency in K-5 and 6 through 12. For math, it's tricky because, as you know, we've had different math measures. And so when we're looking at plus 45 percentage point growth in 9 through 12, we're looking at different measures. And so as we get into further years of implementation with STAR Math, we'll be able to really look at that trend and growth there. But in both literacy and math, overall for MRUSD, we're at 40% proficient in the winter, and our ultimate goal is 50% right now, and so that is a really promising metric. One of the things that I was asked about last time was growth, and what does growth look like, especially for our students who are scoring in the different performance descriptor categories. We'll workshop that title. And so one of the things that I've been working on learning is what is expected growth by mid-year. And so for students who are taking the DIBELS assessment, the expected growth is that their scale score, where they started, they should have at least 60 points of growth in that by the midpoint. And we want to see, I think, 120 or 100 by the end of the school year. I'll definitely have that metric for you by the end of the school year. And so when we look at this, if you see 100, that means that the group has met that expected growth, and if you see above that, that means that they're growing at an accelerated rate and have exceeded that. And so you can see that I put some color coding in with the groups in the 90s being, we were pretty close, and anything lower, oh, actually there's one that should be an orange, anything that's lower than that, we want to dig in and say, how do we continue to accelerate the student learning in that? But a lot of really great celebrations looking at the students who are well below and below benchmark, seeing those higher than 100 values, and that's really looking very promising for kids. For IXL, I don't have 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th because when we did the fall administration, there was a glitch where not all of the scores were reported in the same way, and so I had very funky numbers where it was looking like we went backwards 300 points or 300, which is not true. So I was not able to get the clean pull to be able to do that, but I will definitely have that for you by the end of the school year. But for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, again, we can see that same trend. Though mid-year growth is 40 points versus 60, that the students who are far below grade level are making that expected growth or accelerating, and just continuing to look at what are those things that we are doing to reinforce growth in the reading level on IXL. So for math, this is where things get fun. So STAR, our new assessment, does have a scale score, which is basically saying that based off of your performance on this, we say that you're somewhere on this scale of proficiency. But then to tell you about growth, they take that and they turn it into another value, which is called the student growth percentile. And so it's not something along the lines of 40 points of scale score growth. What the target is that we have students who are, for mid-year growth, between 35 and 50 SGP. And so what I pulled for you here is for each one of our grade levels, what % of our students are meeting that 50 SGP or above. And so you can see that we have a large percentage of or a large number of our grade levels with more than 50% of our students who are meeting that 50 or above with their average growth of every single grade level. The students who are meeting that are really exceeding that with averages in the 70s, which is considered really high growth. And so I think that's a really big celebration for us that in 7 of our grade levels, we have over 50% of our population who are having accelerated growth, and accelerated growth equals accelerated proficiency over time. So thought that was a huge celebration that I would share with you all. Behavior and attendance. Take it
So
away.
this is the slide that I was just referencing that matches what Megan just presented around the academics and the winter changes that we've seen across the last 3 years. So again, in terms of attendance, if you look at the overall growth from winter of 2024 to winter of 2026, we are seeing a growth of 10 percentage points. So even though the fall to winter change shows a decline, when you compare winter to winter, those declines are not as significant across the last 3 years. We're tightening that gap if you want to look at it that way. Same for behavior. Again, if you want to look from winter 2024 to winter 2026, I would say we're staying pretty consistent because with how we're tracking our behavior, a decline of 2 to 3 percentage points is not a significant difference. But that just shows you, again, the pattern throughout the last 3 years. We also have a new software program that we've been utilizing as a leadership team that is really interesting in the sense of it helps us dive deeper into our trends and our patterns and gives us some what they call key insights of you might want to pay attention to this, or this might be an outlier, or this might be something you want to talk about more as a leadership team. So for both attendance and behavior, I just wanted to share some of those insights with you, which is a new way to present the data. I have not been able to present kind of the qualitative picture to you all because we didn't have a program that easily highlighted that for us from a data analysis perspective. So again, just looking at attendance, some things that I thought were important to just point out. The largest dip in our attendance, when you look at the winter, really winter is kind of like late October to March, but our biggest dips are consistently in November and December, and that is consistent over the last 3 years. I do want to highlight Superintendent Kimball, that having 2 days of school right before Christmas Eve, that is a huge outlier in our data. The percentage of students that we had absent on those 2 days was really eye-opening and really skewed our data for the month of December overall. So that, again, just pointing that out, the data is there, it's not my own opinion. We also noticed when looking at attendance that grade 8 was an outlier. They showed a rate of chronic absenteeism at a much higher rate than any of our other grades when you look at pre-K 12.
Can you say that again, please?
Again, I don't know the why behind that. I can't tell you what attributes to that. It's just an important outlier piece of data that we have noticed, and we actually talked about that as a full leadership team with all of our 8th grade building leaders at the table.
Thanks. I didn't hear the grade level, sorry.
So should we cancel Christmas in the future?
Yes.
So we won't get that?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, obviously.
Is that statistic throughout all of the schools?
Yes. Yep, so we looked at all of our pre-K 8 buildings, and 8th grade is an outlier across Fairfield City and town. Yep, and again, I can't tell you the why, but it's something that has drawn our attention, and we're gonna dive a little deeper into that as a team to try to see if we can figure out more of a rationale for that. And then again, I just also wanted to point out that what's interesting is we have our highest student attendance percentage rate on Wednesdays. Don't know if that's because of the early release in the pre-K 8 schools or not. And then we have our lowest attendance rate on Tuesdays. And again, that is across all of our schools, including BFA. So again, I don't know the why, just really interesting patterns to point out and that we're noticing as a leadership team.
Are those peaks and valleys like noticeably different? Like,
Yes.
So there's just a ton more absences on Tuesdays and a ton fewer on Wednesdays?
Yes. The Wednesday spike in attendance is astronomical. Yep, I thought Mondays would be the lowest, and
That would be my guess.
it's not. Tuesday is by far the lowest.
I think it makes total sense. Parents are like, okay, go to school. I tried to go to school today, and then I'm gonna take the next day off. I mean, it makes
And again,
sense.
causation is, causation and correlation. There's a lot of different hypotheses that we could throw out as to the why behind that, but we don't really have any facts or evidence to back up the why yet.
I was gonna say, to play off of what Alexis was just saying, is that the work that the leadership team is doing right now is noticing these trends so that we can say, where do we want to dig in? What hypotheses do we actually want to see if they hold water? And then what can we do about that? And so it's something that we're doing at the leadership team, looking at the district, and then each school's leadership team is looking at that on their individual levels. And so that will that will come through when we talk about our future school CIPs and district goals as well.
Nicole?
One of my thought processes, correlation aspect. I wonder how it correlates with our staff absences
Just thinking
also.
the same thing.
And that might be something to look into, because if your favorite teacher is normally absent at a certain day, maybe you may not want to be there either. And I wonder if there's a correlation with that, because it's weird that it's throughout the schools, and not just within one school and another school.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that would play in factor.
So the data platform that Alexis was talking to will actually allow
That's
us
awesome.
to do that analysis, which is so exciting.
Yeah,
We're
I
just
like numbers.
still in the process of validating that the data is the correct data and adding pieces incrementally so that we can do it in a responsible way without being too overwhelmed. But,
That's exciting.
yeah.
Great questions. It is exciting. And then I did the same thing for behavior. So again, diving a little bit deeper into our behavior data, kind of opposite of attendance, which is no surprise for especially people who work in education. Our highest spike in behavior incidents is across the months of September and October, primarily later. It starts later in September, which makes a lot of sense when you think about the beginning of the year is exciting, there's lower expectations, there's lower academic demands, the novelty of a new school year quickly wears off after week 6 or 7, things get harder, expectations and the rigor increases, and that's when we start to see our behavior spikes. PBIS calls it the October catch. If you can catch those kids by early October, and wrap them with appropriate interventions, it'll impact your behavior data throughout the rest of the year. That pattern will follow. So that's why we do our surveys when we do our surveys. We're very intentional with that timing so we can try to catch kids before it's too late in the fall. Spring Academy is definitely an outlier when you look at the students in Spring Academy for behavior. They are significantly higher in terms of behavior reports than any of our schools, which I actually think is a celebration and is validating that we have the right kids. And we are supporting the right kids in that program. But it was just interesting to see the drastic difference when you disaggregate those students from the larger data pool. Physical aggression, we track a lot of different behaviors in terms of majors, and physical aggression is the highest reported behavior category. When you look at all of the major referrals, physical aggression is at the top. And then again, there was an outlier that was recognized in first grade across, again, all of our pre-K 8 schools. This is not significant to one school over the other. But there is a huge spike in major behavior referrals in our first grade. And again, I think there's a lot of qualitative rationale for why that is happening that we're constantly talking about with our littles. But I don't have any concrete evidence to give you to explain that outlier. But we see a lot of increased dysregulation in our younger kids these days. And the transition from kindergarten to first grade is big in terms of expectations and stamina. So
The next thing we did is we asked all the schools, what do you want to share with the board? Like, what do you want to share with the community about when you're looking at your data? What are some of your key highlights or takeaways? So this is a very short, next few slides, a really short, just kind of succinct summary of like the elevator pitch. So at City School, in talking with their administrators, they saw some really solid literacy growth in all the bands, And really wanting to highlight that in kindergarten, 85% of the students met the expected growth target for the middle of the school year. So just phenomenal to be able to see all those young learners really accelerating and meeting that expected growth for the year. So showing that literacy is on the right track. And also there was a reduction in behavioral referrals to this point in time, year over year at city schools. So that felt like a really strong celebration. Polly shared at BFA that there'd been a 12% reduction in behavioral referrals, and there was a peak in September, but there's been steady decline, and they're seeing now a 30% drop year over year for the month of December. So in the month of December, compared year to year, a 30% decline. And you know, anecdotally talk about causation. There was discussion with John Bracco and Sarah and Katam and Polly about really the cell phone policy. Having those cell phones not with you seems to have created an environment where there is well, obviously greater face-to-face communication, but there's less opportunities for engaging in negative behaviors throughout the day that then spill over out into the hallways, into the next class, into the next day. So they're really feeling like that has been a positive. As well as it's not up here, but as well as there's been a large decline in the number of vape policy violations that have occurred, and attributing some of that to the vape sensors. And again, you know, anecdotally, there probably is something to be said about the cell phone policy, because there's no longer the quick, hey, let's meet up at this location in the school to engage in certain behavior. And so we're trying to connect some dots here, but it does kind of make sense. You know, even at the pre-K-8s, we used to call the bathrooms the phone booth, because we knew that's where kids were going to use their cell phones. And so it's just, it's good to see that positive trend happening. NCTC, they exceeded the state ELA accountability target. The state accountability target for ELA is 35%, and the NCTC was at 45.5, and this is really attributed in a large part to the strong PLC and that commitment to the understanding that literacy success is just crucial for career and workplace readiness. Strong literacy foundation is just so important at that level, and getting everyone prepared to enter the workforce. And so a real celebration to their staff for leveraging that PLC time. Jessica.
What is the state accountability target?
So good question. So all the for CTE, for career and technical ed centers, they do have measures of proficiency that they need to meet for how many students are proficient in ELA. As far as the specific measure they're using, I can't answer that for you, but I can get it from you.
I think the measure is called the work keys assessment.
Yeah.
Is what they
Thank
use.
you.
So like the state gives them like a IXL assessment, and then they kind of
That's what work keys is.
Yes,
Yeah.
work keys is something that's given across. I would
Yeah.
actually almost say it's more like a VT cap, more than like it's the standardized assessment for CTE. Yep. And I would say that in addition to PLC, they've also had targeted professional learning, and they've really been focusing on that.
Fairfield wanted to celebrate that, you know, they've had multiple grade levels that were meeting or above the target in ELA, but really grades 3 and 5 were leading the way so far. Grade 3 had 47.5% meeting or above the target, and grade 5 was at 76%. And Kelsey was commenting that this really was thinking about the real targeted focus in their professional learning communities, their PLCs. When they came together, was around literacy and specifically around fluency, because as students get older, actually the scoring shifts a little bit more, and fluency is a huge factor in improving those scores for students. So we know that we have to make fluency a priority, and Fairfield did that with home opportunities, engaging with families that way, extra practice through the day, and then also with tracking those students and bringing it back to the PLC to talk about what are we doing for these identified students, is it successful or not? And so that's a really great example of a PLC at work and how it can impact student learning and curriculum focus. At SATEC, we've done a lot of work around attendance, particularly at the K2 level, knowing that if we can create those habits at a very early age, we can start to shift that tide. And so we did celebrations at parent conferences with posters around the building, We had individual recognition that was handed out to families at conferences. We have one team that is trying to see if it makes a difference if through the PBIS system, if every day a student walks in the door, they're tokened for just showing up. Because for some kids, showing up is the hardest thing they can do. So can we get them to feel like I just contributed to something by being here? And so we've seen some real success there. And grade 2, where we're doing that work, kind of focusing a little pilot there, they are 80% on track, and K and 1 are at 70% on track at this point in time. We've also been working with the district. This is around all schools, but when we're identifying students that have missed 5 days, we're starting to pilot to, let's see what happens if we send postcards that just say we miss you, right? Trying to get families and students to realize you are important, you are missed. And then also shifting in other ways to recognizing, hey, you know what, first semester may have been a little bit off track for attendance, but you've shown growth and improvement, so we want to recognize it as well. So the attendance committee at the district level is trying a variety of things and trickling through all the schools.
I think one of the big celebrations around all of this is that it's teams of teachers looking at data and picking something that they want to improve, picking next steps, and then monitoring their progress. And we're seeing that not only in their local data, but in some of the bigger data as well. And so you heard us talk about PLCs, that's been a major investment in time. And we're starting to see with the work that the PLC committee has been doing and the commitment across all of our schools that we're starting to see some measurable student growth that we can tag to that, which is also part of HRS level 1 of collaborative communities. Anyway.
So this is just, I wanted to close out with some last pieces of data because we don't do the SEL survey in the winter. I wanted to give you something related to social emotional learning growth outside of the student survey. So I'm going to kind of just flip this. So at the bottom is the growth in outreach to our district SEL and RP instructional coach. That was a new position as of last year. And for the full year of 2024-2025, she received 17 total requests from teachers for coaching and consultation. And when you look at this year, just up until February, she has already received a total of 25 coaching cycle requests and consultation. This is not something that is mandated by administration. It is totally voluntary. So it is professional staff and classroom teachers reaching out directly, saying, come into my classroom, do some observations, put me in a coaching cycle, give me some tips and tricks, model some activities for me around how to better embed restorative practices and social emotional learning into my classroom. So this is all teacher driven and teachers self-selecting themselves. But that is huge growth because we're not even at the end of the year yet. So I'll be excited to see what the number is at the end of the year. And then I just wanted to show you the enrollment. Oops, I'm not done yet.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Just a quick piece about the enrollment for Spring Academy. This is just meant to show you that the program continues to grow and expand and reach more students. This also isn't the true rate of growth. So for example, if you look at this winter, we have actually accepted and started 4 new students in the program just in the winter alone. The reason why you don't see a change in 4 in the numbers is because we've had some students move out of district. We've had some students shift their placements. So that's why it's not I just gave you current enrollment, but it doesn't show the rate of growth amongst the students. Something that I think Jack asked last time that I want to highlight, we do now have students on hybrid schedules, which means they are doing both time in their sending school and time still connected to Spring Academy. So we do have hybrid student schedules, and we do have some students on the radar where we are talking about transitioning them fully back into their sending schools, which is quite impressive. And we have made 0 referrals to out-of-district placements. So we have not had to refer any of these students to a more restrictive placement outside of our district. We have been able to keep all of them that have started within Maple Run, which is super, super exciting. And that includes our 8th graders that are now at the high school. All of those freshmen are currently being supported by alternative programs at BFA. We have not had to send them out due to the transition from middle school to high school, which is a testament to BFA's close support and collaboration as well. All right, last slide. I'm not going to read this to you. You can just, you're so close, just give me a little elbow.
Do you know how much like capacity the RP coach has for that? Like, is there like a limit on
There
how
isn't.
There isn't.
It's just, I meet with her like daily, and it's just an ongoing, how are you doing? How's the capacity? How are things feeling? We will never turn a teacher away.
Right.
If a teacher is reaching out for support, we're never gonna say, we don't have capacity for you, sorry. So it's just an ongoing
That's awesome.
collaboration between the two of us. Yep. Yeah. Is that? Okay. So again, I'm not gonna read these to you, but I did receive some feedback after the last presentation that the board appreciated the testimonial part of the presentation instead of just the numbers. So I wanted to keep consistent with that. If you remember, last time I presented testimonials from students and the Spring Academy staff directly. These testimonials are now from the sending schools. So these come from City School, Town School, and Fairfield, because those are the schools Spring Academy is supporting. And those are the students we are taking as referrals. So that, again, I'm not gonna read those to you, they're on your screen. If you have any questions, always available.
And with that, do you have any questions for us, or do you want to answer your questions?
That was great, very
One more.
comprehensive.
Come on, Jacoby.
Thank you.
I had a suggestion. We're going back to the success measuring dashboard. When we talk about the statistically significant district differences, is there a way we can have a percentage? Because I know, like, I think last I heard we got like 40 ELL students. So if like 4 kids act up, it's 10% of them. And so just, I feel like a lot of these kids, a lot of these groups are like the smaller groups in the whole, and seeing how much of a percentage, I don't want to like call anybody out either, but in the sense of like how many, if that makes, I don't know how to explain this, but it's one of those things, like a lot of these things, if it's a small group of kids, 40 kids, 4 of them does 10%, they're gonna make it on here. And then there's other groups that are 200 kids and, 5 people do it, and it's one of those things that like statistics do, you can like, not only use the word skew, but it kind of brings things forward. So is there any way to kind of measure that and show it? Does that make sense?
We can look into it.
Yeah,
for
because that's one of
sure.
the things I look at it, because they're the same consistent groups are usually on there. And I'm wondering if it's because there are smaller groups within the school district that are just they're highlighting them more because they're fewer.
We can definitely look into
Nakuma,
it.
I
Yeah.
appreciate how you keep us on our toes.
I like math.
Do you want
Yeah.
me to chime in? I'm gonna chime in after I say that.
I was gonna say, well, that was a long presentation, so I was like, we could
The only
get
thing
back
is,
to it.
Yukuma, we can give you the demographical distribution, so you have that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I heard
Yeah, it's
you
kinda-
asking. But I would wanna say, with statistical significance, it takes into account that you could have larger swings in percentages with a smaller group when they compare it to a larger group. So when you look at, this is the former math science teacher in me and researchers that I've done a lot, the quantitative pieces, when you compare a big group to a small group, to get statistical significance, there has to be a much further difference than if you create you have the big group and you have a group that's at least half the size of the sample group. The sample group is half the size of the original group, then the percentage difference has to be is much smaller. That's one of the things statistical significance takes into account. But then we get into a whole math lesson of how that curves. But I think one of the things you were asking for, what's the demographic distribution of those groups? We
Yeah,
can
it's
easily do
more that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And for me to take it one step further is like, what are we doing about it? Because if
Yeah.
we keep seeing it happen over and over again, then I go to the key highlights and I don't see anything on the key highlights, insights, excuse me, about some of those cultural information that we see that is consistently statistically significant. So want to make sure that we're doing something about it. Because if it is a small group, then we should be able to impact it.
And
Sorry, I
think-
couldn't resist my math.
No, I like math, so I'm okay with the conversation. And the other one, I know you talked about on the growth ELA composition, the colors, if you could just have a legend on there, so when we're reviewing at
Totally.
home, I know it's a
Yes.
simple thing, but
Trying to figure that out too.
Yep.
so no, because we're at home and this way we're not bothering when we come back on, what does that mean?
Yeah. No.
And that's the only two comments I had in the presentation for the first question.
Thank you.
So again, thank you. Megan, Alexis, and Jason, a lot of work on that presentation. So I wanted to refer back to the 3 questions and see if there's anything you want to add in regards to, what change do you see in the monitoring report? What more information is identified, and what can the board do to help the district meet these goals? Does anyone have anything they'd like to share regarding that? Please.
I like the idea of including just some bullet points about actions that are being taken, so that way we have it in writing. We can keep that in mind and then follow up on how did those actions pan out for the next time.
Yes. That's great. Anyone else? Amanda, any outgoing words on this?
Not right now.
Yeah.
Have fun.
What I think is great is that we're starting to see, is it called longitudinal data? We can see year after year after year. We've seen three versions, 3 sessions, 3 years, whatever, of data. And I think that's what we've been wanting. And one of the gripes that I always had is, we keep changing the tool with which we represent the data, so we could never make comparisons from year to year to year. So I'm glad to see that that is an improvement that we've made. I'm not sure that any of these comments are answering the questions, though.
I feel like,
Bill, can you?
sorry, I was gonna
Go
say,
ahead.
I feel like number 3 is more like the staff helping us understand how we can support. Because number 3 says, what can the board do to help support as a governance role? And I think without knowing what the staff need from us, it's hard for us to say what we can do as a board to support the staff. Just the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's good too is, I think it was Alexis that said things like, last report you asked about, and we found that information here. And so I like the fact that you're remembering what we're asking about and working towards giving that information to us as part of the report rather than as a Q&A afterwards. I struggle, Bill, with trying to make, go ahead, Joanna.
I like these questions. I don't know that they're not on target. I think that they can be. I think maybe if we can just have a reminder again, I'm losing the wording in terms of just this strategic plan. I'm thinking about the equity piece, and when we were talking about attendance and the things that came up that were of statistical significance, based on some of our population. So, and then when we think about, when we were talking about the last question, right, what can the board do? So then if we look at our governance, we can look at what policy, can we influence, in terms of budgetary, and then in terms of supervision, for you, right? So those would be the areas that we would look at as to how we can support. So making sure that that middle question is really linked to the strategic plan and the areas that we're looking at. So
You've got to join it. Where this actually came from, Nilda and I were talking as I was writing my self-evaluation to the board, and I said, I was summing up, what's my goals are the district's goals.
Yeah.
And so I need reflection, not just at my summative evaluation as your superintendent, I need it at each monitor report. And what Nilda said back to me, she goes, we really should be accepting these in, and then we approve them or not. And because that helps tell myself and then through to the team, are we moving the way you want us to move as a board? And so when I think about the governance of the board, it's for you to say, in accepting a report doesn't mean we've made the goal, but like, hey, we accept it, like you're showing us information and that's movement. Or no, you're not moving fast enough. I mean, that's what I need to, as your executive, I need that in small chunks, not in big chunks.
Right.
So I can help guide the district and how we do. And Joanna, you went right where I wanted the board to go with like, what do we have for resources? What do we have for policies? Is there something lacking in that big governance that's hindering you from doing your work?
And when we see things that are statistically significant, we're not interested in sweeping those under the carpet.
No.
We want to look at them and address them, right? And so how can we address them? And then how can we hold?
Yeah. Right, what you said there was like, okay, so how are you doing that? I expect to hear, we may not have that answer tonight. Oh, do you have us? The microphone's not working. Is it all working? How's that, Nilda? No?
Everybody's still frozen.
Yeah, hold on.
I agree with you, Nilda. I don't see
Yeah, we're all.
the room at all, and I
Yeah.
see you moving.
Are you able to hear us at all?
Great.
No.
Oh,
No.
bummer.
Yeah, the room, everything's black.
I'm just gonna text Nilda that we
Except for me.
fine.
Meeting's over.
You have a text her?
I'll text Aaron.
You can all hear me fine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can, Erin, online. I'm not sure if other people online can.
Okay. I don't know how do we repair this?
We're working on
situation?
it.
Brianne just texted me that they can hear us and they are working on their internet. So I guess we just stay put.
Good job, Bree.
Way to take charge.
Oh, we're back.
We're back, we're back, okay.
So one of the other things that, go ahead.
So I'd like to make a compliment. When I was doing my research about 85 years ago, I noticed that people put out their data as if it just happened, but they never compare it to anything. So we never knew, okay, you've got 20%, 30%, what does that mean? And what I'm really glad that, for example, tonight, and Nilda, you pointed it out, that we have the comparison. And I just wanted to compliment Megan and the staff that worked on this. It takes a lot of work to do all this type of study while you're doing your daily work, so compliments to all of you for doing the comparison, because that's the most important thing. Where were we and where are we now? And where are we going to be and where do we hope to be next time? That's the most important thing we can do.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard this, Nilda, but I was saying to Joanna, and I think you might have froze at some point, her questions at the end there, her statements, were right on the par, and then to say, so, we have a question, you may not have the answer right now, but next time you come back, we wanna hear, and as you were pointing out, those equity gaps for, historically marginalized groups.
Right.
And
And
what
this
do you-
is,
what do
it's
you-
not criticism.
No, it's just we're
right?
seeing it, what
It's
can we?
just information.
Right.
And what are we gonna do about it?
Right,
That's
and,
all.
and I think it's actually really, that's the good work of the board. That's your monitoring role, is to ask those questions and to
Right.
say, hey, we just want, and in my part that I say a lot to our team is like, let's do something. And if it works, it works. We'll use research to see if it's the right one to do, but if it doesn't, okay, we tried something, let's try something else.
Yeah.
And that's what we ask our teacher teams to do in their PLCs. So the board does that for us, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I think
Hi, children.
the other thing that has occurred is over the last 3 years of seeing these reports, the board's gotten a little smarter, I guess. So therefore, when we're looking at that data and hearing that data, we're not as confused as we were and aren't as, hung up on now what's that, is that percent or percentile or whatever, like we can kind of work our way through that better. Not that was necessarily a goal of the whole system, but I think it's just kind of unexpected or maybe expected consequence of this whole process.
And I would say, to kind of add to that, the consistency in the presentation of the slides is very useful, and especially since I provided some of the information from one of the previous reports to some folks I had a coffee chat with, and I was able to go back in the meeting and find it because I knew the format I was looking for. But the consistency with notes of what has changed from the last time is very helpful in making sure that, oh, this is that report and I know what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think, as Bill said, our monitoring is exactly asking those questions and moving forward for additional data. So are there any objections to approving this report?
I don't have an objection, but I have a question.
Okay.
What does not approving the report look like? Like, if we get a report and we say we don't approve it, does that mean go and make the report again, or just?
This is the wonky part I was talking about.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think when you get something that you don't approve, first of all, it's going to be really, really out there. It's going to bug us a lot, right? So we will know by hearing the report what improvements we want on it.
Okay.
I'm making a big leap of faith there, but.
And Joanna's got her hand
Just a
up.
quick one, I know.
But I don't think, excuse me, Joanna, I don't think that we would approve a report that we know the data in it is wrong, and we may know it from a different source or anecdotally, and we might want the presenters and their teams to go back and review the data and bring it back. That's kind of how I see that.
So if we get a report that we don't approve, then basically we're saying there's something wrong with this report and we want you to revise it and then present it to us again at a future date. Is that correct?
I mean, that's how I see it, but I don't think the response, we don't approve this report, kind of hangs there. I mean, there has to be supporting information to go with it so that at least the person that reads the minutes knows what the heck we're thinking of, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Thanks for that, Charlie.
Joanna?
Yeah. No, I just know that, Alexis, you said that there were 2 errors in the, or was it Megan,
there's
when you said like the ELL and the.
Yeah.
There was one error.
Okay, all right. So I don't know if you just wanted to, have that fixed before it goes, if other people want to read that, in terms of.
I can actually fix it literally right now.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's the only thing that I heard.
Thank you. So, any objections to approving this report?
No.
Okay. So, board is approving this to, what is called the winter student data report. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Old business. Vermont education system reform status and update. So I can report back that the joint letter was sent out to the members of the legislature, and it was sent from Fairfax, MBU, and ourselves at Maple Run. And obviously regarding Act 73. And, we also sent them those discussion points that we came up with at the December 11th meeting that we had with the legislators and of Franklin County and the delegates, the legislature and delegates. We did receive a couple of thank you for the information. And it was from a Carol Cole and a James Gregoire. He's a state representative, but I don't know who Carol Cole is. And there's so many emails on that list, I couldn't find it. But I think she may be a legislator also. Bill, do you know?
I don't know, I'd have to go look. She might be a committee aide as well.
Oh, that's
right.
So
He's
that's-
not a legislator.
Yeah, and then
James is for Fairfield.
James is from Fairfield, Bakersfield, so
Yeah.
he represents. He-
Um,
He's actually very
Either
helpful.
way, those two people actually thanked us for all the documents. So I think they must be legislators or connected somehow, because it seemed like they hadn't seen those documents before. And we had sent the documents forward to the chairs to review with their boards. So that's what I have on that. And Bill, you have anything to update us on with that?
I would just update you, we talked, I think at the last meeting, Peter Collins' map had come out with 26 or 20, depends how you look at it, but I think it's 26 districts with school districts in the House Education. Just yesterday and today, 2 more maps have come out in the Senate. The one out in the Senate will extend the process and encourage voluntary, it sounds a lot like Act 46. It encourages voluntary mergers, and if you don't merge, the state board will merge you by the end of the 2nd year. And there's 13 SUs. This came from Senator Bongartz out of Bennington, Rutland. And then Senator Heffernan from Addison County put a proposal out today for one school district for the whole state of Vermont.
There you go.
Okay. Deal.
So, as I've said before, things will get interesting. I don't think this is the end of it yet, but those have come out of the Senate. So, there's a couple other pieces of legislation, and I should have said this to you, Nilda. Do you want me to do an update here or my superintendent's report on that?
It's your pleasure.
So there's a bill, the House is about to vote on moratorium on the PCB sampling, and it's gonna be close. Because some people see it as a safety measure and what it does for PCB exposures, and others see it as a way of unfunded mandate that the state's requiring us. We ourselves are paying for testing that there is no reimbursement from the state that's happening in our buildings. And that's happening in almost every district, and I just think of our friends up in North Country and what they're going through at North Country High School, where they may have the same issue that Burlington did. They're gonna have a hard time staying in that building. But the science changes all the time. So that's one thing that's happening. The second thing that is, I don't recall if I talked about this last time, but you might have seen an article in Digger where I was quoted on absenteeism, and a lot of it was the same data that Alexis presented on tonight. But the state is it started with a agency of education, but they're looking at some ways of supporting chronic absenteeism, and what that would do is take away a lot of the truancy powers would still be there with the state with the state's attorneys, but require other interventions to be done first, which we're doing already. So I don't know much of the bill, but I'm not sure what the bill will do because many of us are doing what the bill's already calling for.
Be interesting to know the data on how many truancy
Affidavits.
are actually followed through with.
I'm looking at my colleague over there as an assistant
I've
principal
never-
who deals with that. It's very rare, right?
Repeat the whole question, I caught like 30%.
What do they actually follow through with the affidavits? Like, I mean, I had a couple, but then nothing ever happened with them.
Mixed bag of success. I'd say sometimes it's a 50-50 depending on the level of engagement from the families. We've had a number of them over the last couple of years. And again, a mixed bag of results. Some have been highly successful with supportive court involvement, and others have been good luck with the resources you have as a school district.
Okay.
That's an honest answer.
Yeah.
But I wanted that answer
Yeah.
because I knew Joanna, you had that experience, and Alexis supports the schools with that as well. So those are the big things. I mean, there's lots of bills. There's lots of bills up on the wall, but those are the ones that are getting traction right now.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
Any questions for Bill?
Well, thanks
Okay.
for persevering with that letter, Nilda, and, responding to people slowly as they, responded back to you. But I'm really glad that we did that and it happened. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, my pleasure. Next item is 7B, which is budget information session. So I guess we can all read that it's February 25th, 2026. I noted that there doesn't say six o'clock on this little blurb here, but it's written every other place. So, Bill, you're next to it from my little notes here.
Okay.
But we also have Bill Bree and maybe myself on the budget presentation preview, which is coming up next, which is basically the content of the budget information session, along with possible Q&As.
Yep. Yeah, and that meeting the only thing I would add, Nilda, for that meeting on the 25th is not a board meeting, but it's an informational session. We invite all of you to be there, but it's not a board meeting per se.
Right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so, moving along with the budget presentation preview.
So I will say the three of us have not sat down this this winter and gone through it together, so we might be a little rough. And so Nilda, do you want to start us off here with these first few slides about the board and the district? And this is kind of our practice session as well.
Sure, it'd be my pleasure to do that. It's just a lot of pleasure right now.
Right.
Okay, so this is the FY 27 budget presentation for Maple Run Unified School District, covering pre-kindergarten through 12th grade. The school, the schools that are involved in this group, but it's Fairfield, St. Albans City, St. Albans Town, BFA, and Northwest Career and Technical Center. Next slide, please. Here's a list of the current board of directors. We have three people that are rolling off the board, and two people that are getting reelected, and we will, I believe, end up with one open position at the end of this vote. Next slide. So this gives a little bit of data on the number of students covered by each of those schools. I think it also illustrates that the numbers are going down a little bit in each school. But it's a total of, I was gonna total this before and I didn't, what is it, 2,000 students?
It's 25, what you see on here right now is 2,512. And Nilda, one of the things I want to do is go back to our October 1 count. This is actually current right now, so there's a couple little numbers will change in here. I just noticed it tonight, even though I looked at it this afternoon.
Okay, perfect, thank
Yep.
you. Next slide. Okay, so this is a list of the Maple Run Unified School District goals. These were derived from a few budget forums and a few board meetings over a period of time, and sort of carved out as to what was priorities for the district. And they're laid out in a nice format here that we can follow. And also we use these goals as metrics to monitor our success toward the goal, meeting the goal.
So, Nilda, I was thinking at this point, it's either that slide that you just did or this one is where I usually you usually turn it over to me.
Jump in.
So the district uses some key quantitative measures. They're not our only way the board monitors our success, but this is our dashboard for our 3-year change, and this is data of this fall. It's not of the winter time. So you'll see 3 years of fall. And we tried it for the board to know, we've tried to keep this consistent with the one pager that we give out to everyone, so we just didn't want this to change. So you'll see how we monitor our attendance, our behavior, our literacy, our math, and our social emotional learning. And what you'll see over that 3-year trend is we're seeing a trend up in all indicators areas for Maple Run. So our longitudinal data is giving us good feedback that we're having a positive impact on kids. So next slide.
Can I take it away?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
I probably would have done the goal one too. And now it's you.
Perfect. Okay, so in our Maple Run budget, the board has approved to push through a $79,653,912 expense budget, which is 2.44% of an increase over FY 26. So our estimated spending per pupil will be $14,503, which is a 3.36% decrease over last year's estimated spending per pupil per student. Going down to the next slide. So here's a pie chart of the FY27 expenses at a glance. So you'll see that 76.8% of the budget is salary and benefits. 4.6% of the budget is supplies and equipment. 10.7% of the budget is tuition and transportation. 6.9% is the contracted services, and 1%, which is really, really tiny, is the dues, fees, and the debt, which is slowly going away for us. And so then over on the right side, you'll see the costs of all of these broken out, and then totaling our budget of what we're bringing to the voters. So for the regular education aspect of the budget, it will be $54,148,026. Special education, we have budgeted $21,409,151, and the Northwest Career and Technical Center, we have to break them out due to them being a technical center. They are budgeted at $4,096,735. And then here's a little blurb as to how our budget compares. So again, our FY27 total expenses were up 2.44%, but we want to really pride ourselves that over the last 2 years, our budget has only increased 4.49%, and the national inflation rate over the last 2 years is 5.6%. So we are staying underneath that inflation rate. And then again, our long-term weighted average daily membership is a decrease over last year of 3.36%. And then these are multiple different factors that impact the property taxes. So for FY '27, we have local revenues that will impact the property tax, as it was sent out last year to everybody. The state of Vermont had put money back into the education fund from the reserves, which lowered everybody's property taxes, or people's property taxes didn't increase as much as what they were expecting it. And then they don't have that money again this year. So that leaves us hanging a little bit. The long-term weighted average daily membership is another thing that impacts the property taxes. The property dollar yield equivalent, that is set by the state of Vermont, and that changes and will change again. They've changed it a few times already this year. And it's all based on every single school district's budgets throughout the state of Vermont. It's all commingled to then see what the yield will actually be, because in the mid-December, they reach out to all of us and ask all of the business managers and ask us what we're expecting our budget increase will be. And so, you know, some districts will say 3% and they're actually increasing by 6%, or like us, we said 4% and we only increased by 2.44%. So having those factors in there. And then lastly, the estimated equalized homestead tax credit.
Can you just
Yes.
explain again I missed when you said the remaining amount is education spending. I don't know, I don't remember what that is.
So the amount of the education spending, so our I would combine that in with the long-term weighted average daily membership of like how much we are spending. Nope, I'm retracting that. This is how much we are asking from the education fund. So like the revenues, the offsetting revenues that we receive. So like grant revenues versus the taxpayer revenues. So it's that $51 million from that. I'm trying to remember from our tax sheet. It's like $51 million that we're asking for, because we're gonna receive about 21 million in.
Okay, so remaining
revenues.
amount.
Yes.
Okay, is education. Okay, sorry, thank you.
You're welcome. I'll wordsmith that a little bit. Okay, the estimated homestead equalized property tax. So in FY '27, the state common level of appraisal for Fairfield will be 127%. St. Albans City, because they were just reassessed, is going to be 144%. And St. Albans Town, because they have not been assessed in quite some time, will be at 84%. So this will show Fairfield having a 4-cent increase per $100 of property value. St. Albans City will see a 10-cent decrease, and St. Albans Town will see a 9-cent increase, which I can explain in the next slide a little bit more. So with the home value, so this is what your property taxes, what you receive on your property taxes of where your house is valued at. So for, let's say, somebody with $100,000 house property assessed value, Fairfield Town residents would see $44.27 of an increase. St. Albans City residents would see $104.35 of a decrease, and St. Albans Town would see $88.23 of an increase. And then as your house is assessed at higher, you'll see that these calculations differ.
Bree,
Yes.
if you go back, the 250,000 for St. Albans City is lower than the two. So I think you just have to update that one figure. Do you see where it says 206.98?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I bet you it's the 266.
It's probably
It's linear.
Yeah.
It's a linear
Yeah.
Yeah.
formula. Yeah. Good catch.
Good
Thank
eye.
you.
Thank you.
Well, that's where my house falls in, so.
So you want that right? Yes, no, I will get those updated.
This is why we're practicing
Double check.
here.
Thank you. Okay. So then there is also the income sensitivity tax cap. At a different board meeting, I had explained that nearly 50% of all of our residents in St. Albans Town, City, and Fairfield receive some sort of income sensitivity. And one thing that I do want to point out, Jake Feldman from the state of Vermont did a wonderful presentation where he explained that the credits are lagged, meaning that these credits are based on prior calendar year household income and prior fiscal year property taxes. So it's not the current year, it's actually a year behind. So like for somebody who's retiring, they might not necessarily receive that tax credit until the following year. But these are the income levels, and then the FY26 tax cap versus the FY27 tax cap. So the tax cap has changed a little bit, and so it's in FY27 their tax cap is only at $1,000 opposed to $1,190. So they would have actually a little bit more to pay out of pocket for their taxes, or to receive from their credit on their tax bills.
So we have the ballot items. I don't remember, Nelda, who did this in previous years, but it's just basically going through the ballot items.
Are you saying you want me to do this?
Well, I don't know. I can't remember if it's you or me from previous years, but you can tell me which way you want to go.
I think it was you.
That's what I thought.
It's definitely Bill.
It's definitely Bill. Okay.
Got this.
Article 1, and this, we're going to review our pieces that are on the warrant for Maple Run Unified School District. So the first article is to elect 2 directors from St. Albans Town for a 3-year term and 1 director from St. Albans City for a 3-year term. The second article is allowing the board of directors to borrow money in anticipated revenue for taxes, because of when taxes come in, we may need to take out money to keep the cash flow going. Article 3 is a little different than what folks have seen in prior years. This article is asking the voters, shall next year's budget take in revenue $1.2 million to offset tax increases and put aside another $1.25 million in revenue from that previous year for future budgets. And then anything remaining from the audit would then be put into the capital reserve fund. In prior years, we had all money going into the capital reserve fund. And so our attorneys looked this over pretty carefully to get this wording in this way.
So when you say future budgets, you don't wanna,
No, he actually advised us that it was better for the board if we just said future budgets. I know how we talked about programming it, that would be 750 and 500. But if the board so choose next year, then you wouldn't have to go back and re-ask the voters something different. So it gives you the flexibility if something changes. And he actually advised us to do it that way.
Okay.
Yep. But we can still do it, and the reason it says future budgets, it just doesn't limit us to the next 2 years or 3 years. We could stagger how we want it. Okay.
And that's all part of the overall budget.
Yeah, that's within the proposed budget right now. That 1.2 million is coming in revenues, as Bree was explaining. That's in that 21 million of offsetting revenue.
Yes.
Yep. And the 5th article is the approval of the budget. This language is dictated out of Vermont state statute. So as you'll see, we have a budget of $79,653,912 for the FY27 school year, which is a decrease in spending per pupil down to $14,503.
You need to advance the slide.
Oops, sorry.
Oh. I'm trying not to read these directly, but to explain them. And then I think I would turn it over to you, Nelda, because I think in the past you've done the where to vote, which is the next slide.
Right, so again, a reminder, Tuesday, March 3rd is the date to vote. There are a few items on the ballot, including the budget for Maple Run Unified School District. Those from the St. Albans City can vote at St. Albans City Hall from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Fairfield residents will vote at the Fairfield Center School from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And St. Albans town residents will vote at the Collins Curley Sports and Fitness Center from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Is there another slide after this?
That's it.
Okay, so this is where I say, please remember to vote. Your vote really counts. It's really important for you to get out there and vote. Thank you.
Awesome.
And yes, Bill, you could do the goals.
Okay. We figured that out.
Okay. Everybody good with that budget review process?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. New business. The next new business is upcoming organizational meeting. So as what happens every time we have this, we vote on Tuesday, and the first meeting that we have to nominate and organize the folks in the different positions is the next day. One of the things to remember is I think Aaron Smith is able to legally sign you in, and so that you're legal on the school board. So a bunch of positions here. Want y'all to be thinking of what you've been doing and whether you're interested in the position that you've been in to continue. And also, there's just a number of other things like truant officer, et cetera. It's kind of a long list, but we will go through that list on Wednesday after the elections on Tuesday. And I wanted to remind everyone that Ganella has 2 L's and 2 N's in it, if you have to write that down anywhere. So I am interested in serving as your chair again, but you need to be interested in me too. So next is Next is the FY25 audit. This is an action item, so I'd like a motion to discuss, please.
Make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second. Come on.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to accept the fiscal year 2025 audit. And Bree, can you take us through this a little bit?
Absolutely. Okay, so we had a wonderful, successful audit. Super excited about it. We've got an amazing team. In this packet, it's 75 pages long, so I'm going to touch upon some of the quick things and the quick wins of the audit. So on page 4, this is the report on the audit of the financial statement. This is where the Cattell, Brannigan, and Sargent, who are our auditors, express that they do not have they have an unmodified opinion, which means that there were no findings that they saw, and everything looked correct and by the books, and that we are conforming to GAAP, which is generally accepted accounting principles. So that was really exciting. And then scrolling down to page 11, it will show what our fund balances as of June 30th, which comes out to $15,212,576, which means we have a very healthy fund balance, which we have shared with you guys throughout the year, letting you know that we knew that we were going to see some sort of a surplus, and we definitely had that surplus, which will definitely help out with our federal, our capital projects that we're having going on this summer. And then, so going down all the way to the last page, because that's the most important page of this entire document, which is the summary of the audit results. And I just want to read all of these out loud so we have it on record. But the auditor's report expressed an unmodified opinion on the financial statements of the Maple Run Unified School District. There were no significant deficiencies disclosed during the audit of the financial statements of Maple Run Unified School District. No instances of non-compliance material to the financial statements of the Maple Run Unified School District were disclosed during the audit. There were no significant deficiency disclosed in the independent report on compliance for each major program and on the internal control over the compliance required by the uniform guidance. The auditor's report on compliance for the major federal award programs for the Maple Run Unified School District expressed an unmodified opinion. There were no audit findings required to be reported in accordance with 2 CFR section 200.516A. The programs that were tested for the major programs were Title I and supporting effective instruction state grants. The threshold for those were $750,000, and we are a low-risk auditee. And there were no findings on the financial statement, and there were no findings on the major federal award program audit. So, we passed.
Good job.
Well done.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for Bree on the audit? Okay, we have a motion and a second. We ready to take a vote? Okay, Amanda,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Marianne,
Yes.
Nakuma,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
and Yelda votes yes. So we have accepted the fiscal year 2025 audit.
Does anybody want a copy of the audit?
We have it.
Okay, a bound copy, yes, because you
Wait,
already
wait.
have one in your packet.
What kind of binding is it? Is it staple binding?
KBS specialty.
If it was string binding, then yes.
Okay, I don't think so.
So you can go back and sew it for you. Don't
Hand sewn.
We're good.
That's your first solo, right?
Right,
Well
yes.
done.
Congratulations.
Nice job.
All right, moving on to warrants, their business A. I would like to make a motion to approve the warrants, acknowledging that passage of the motion will act as authorization and signature of any individual board members participating remotely. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion for now? Ready to vote? Amanda,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Marianne,
Yes.
Nakuma,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
and Yilda votes yes. Warrants are approved. Moving on to the superintendent report.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get some passing papers, yeah, thanks. Thanks, Nelda. I think one of the things you might have seen, here at Fairfield Center School, they, as you, I think, are all aware of, they do a lot of project-based learning. They added a third unit. I think Kelsey actually told us about that last time we were here. But they had the, Fairfield Center School Olympics and made it a whole project-based learning piece where the kids were in. The Messenger did some great coverage of it. It actually got on Channel 5 as well. So they're just really proud of what they were doing there over the past 2 weeks, and they just finished that. And they did a really nice job of putting some history into it and a lot of teamwork, and it really kind of energized the kids during the winter time. Nakuma, you were there and joined us, but this past Monday we hosted a legislative breakfast at NCTC. Leanne, Lisa, and Chef put on a great gathering there, and I think we had about 10 of our legislative delegation. Megan's, yeah, about right. Yeah. And we had the kids did a great job explaining how NCTC helps them and BFA towards the workforce. I hope soon in the next couple of weeks I'll bring you or at least share with you a data report that Lisa's been doing, working with Cold Hollow for all of Franklin County, tracking kids and their aspirations and where they're ending up. I've seen a preview of it. It's quite extensive. We talked about a lot of things there, and we finally got to Act 73, and really talked about the same thing that was in our letter, pretty much, from all the superintendents. The superintendents really spoke to that, about the inequities that just are evident in Franklin County. And when you look at just on a budgetary, the spending piece, when the real driver of the inequities, the spending piece, is the salary differences between the districts. The benefits are pretty close, but the salaries are a real difference. And Maple Run, we have some of the highest salaries in the state, starting salaries in the state. So that's where we're at. I think it was a good discussion. February break starts this Friday, and we come back the Wednesday after town meeting day. I would echo what Nilda said, which was, please get out and vote, everyone. And then I wanted to ask the board, I think most of you know, last week I was at the national conference for superintendents, and they have it, and I went to a bunch of communication strategy workshops, and the thing I kept hearing was about student voice. Get student voice out there. So there were some tips that I learned for the district, but mostly a lot of affirmation of what we're doing and what the students are doing, and having kids talk about what we're doing and talking about towards the goals. So that was just a really nice kind of aha. The other thing that was big there was about artificial intelligence in education. And so I wanted to ask the board, and I haven't arranged it yet. I'm hoping I can do it by this time. But we have some teachers doing some amazing things for themselves, some amazing things for kids, and teaching appropriate use. And if the board would like, I would try to put together some teachers to come and show you what we're doing. There's new state guidelines out about it, and this board will have to, I think it's a required policy, it's definitely recommended, but something around artificial intelligence policy. So what I'd like to do is gather some of our lead folks in the district and have you just kind of learn about how they're using it for themselves, and then how they're using it with kids. One of the nice things about Vermont guidelines is, and it's right there and appropriate with what we see in national research, don't think of AI as entering kindergarten. It's, what do you do? It's developmentally appropriate, and really a lot of the AI tools come in high school. And helping, because that is going to be the reality. I was reading an article Monday or yesterday. I was telling Megan about this. If you know about, I want to make sure I say it correctly, Ineos, which is a software company. The software executive was talking about using AI, and software development is the leading industry where artificial intelligence is doing work. So he had one of his team members go and do a project last year in January, and it took him 3 weeks to do the project to get to a answer for that project. This year with AI agents, that was down to 37 hours. So it's just cutting the work. 37 minutes. 37 minutes worth, because of how fast the AI is on a real accelerator curve right now. Bree and I, Bree just gave me their eyes, but Bree and I've talked about, Megan and I've talked about a lot of just our students in their work life will be using it all the time. All the time. And I think we need to have that discussion here. If you would like that.
Yes, please.
I'd be interested in that, and I'd also be interested if we could work in student security into that, specifically like, and this is informed partly because in my day job, I've sat through seminars about security or lack thereof in large language models, and so if we could get something to speak to making, how we make sure that student information doesn't get inputted in areas where it could potentially be hacked, that would be great.
That's we have gone to all. I will have Martin, probably Tom Hebert come and talk about that, our network manager, because that's his prime job. But I know we have taken things, and one of the things that's out there, and was at the national conference, it's not about if you get hacked, it's when you get hacked.
Exactly, yeah.
And so we know, and what precautions do we have, and that's one of the things the auditors look at too. They want to hear about our protection, and our insurance folks want to hear that as well.
Yep.
And
Yes, and we go through a security audit every single year with VisBit. They contract with a national company to sit down with, or virtually sit down with our IT people to see what checks and balances we have. One of the things that we implemented this year was single sign-on, where all staff members have to have this feature because there was instances where hackers were getting in and stealing people's credentials. So we've enabled that, and then that works through with a bunch of our programs that we use, so.
But we can do that. We can have something.
Thank you.
Yep. And then lastly, Amanda, it's your last meeting with us. So I wanted to thank you for all your work over the past year. And say thank you. And Nilda, I don't know if you want to add on to that.
I do.
Yeah.
On behalf of the board, I would like to virtually present you with, there's a hard copy in the
Yeah,
room
I have it right here.
of a certificate of participation and appreciation for your 3 years of service on the board.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. And I'm sure you'll be running again in a few years.
You never know.
Thank you. Do you have any parting words?
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Is that the word of the night? It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I've learned a lot.
Thanks, Amanda. Any other board announcements?
Board announcements, I've got one.
Okay.
It's concert season, and so I went to a city school band concert last week, which, again, I sound like a broken record, but I was very high praise for all of the music programs in our district. One of the, at the end of the night, one of the numbers that was thrown out by the music teacher was 87% of the students in the band are able to get their instrument for free, which I think is a pretty big. My immediate thought was if I had that when I was a kid, then I'd probably be a saxophone player now. But like I think it's a pretty big. A pretty big service that we're providing to open up music to kids that otherwise wouldn't be able to play an instrument.
Thanks, Charlie.
Is that new?
Charlie, would you?
Yeah.
That is, I don't believe that's new.
like Alice?
It's been around for a while.
We've been expanding the.
I bought
districts.
a lot of instruments.
I mean,
Me too.
yeah, I definitely am paying for my daughter's trumpet still in installments, but
I was just
I
curious.
assume it's
I
an
think it's
income
awesome.
threshold.
No, we've been purchasing more and more instruments.
It's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And actually, my son is always hauling around his double bass, which actually is
The districts.
the district's double bass
Yeah.
that they are kind enough to let us use. And that has opened up many doors for him.
Charlie, could you update us on your travel cup?
Yeah, I did my first coffee chat on Saturday, February 8th, I believe. Yeah, the 7th. So, Saturday the 7th. And it was great. I had 2 groups of people there, and it was pretty much what I envisioned when I decided it would be a good idea to do these, where we sat down, we talked mostly about the budget, but also about other items in the district. One of the parents from town made a plea to do something about the air conditioning in town school, and I was happy to tell her that that's gonna happen. And I gave I followed up by email with the qualitative numbers that we had from the fall because we had talked about absences and right warnings, but I had it was slotted for an hour and it went for 2, and so it's by far the most successful chat that I've had, and I'm doing my next one this Sunday, so hopefully that's hopefully there will be more people there. I guess I'll mention since Aaron got an email about someone asking whether the district was paying for coffee. The district doesn't pay for coffee. It's just bring your own money for coffee, but it's still a good time.
Thanks, Charlie. Anyone else have anything to report along those lines? Great. And of course, Charlie, you're going to figure out a board. You're going to fill out a board observation and reflection form on your band experiences.
Absolutely.
Items for future agendas. Anybody have anything that's sticking out? Okay. We are adjourned. The time is 7:54.